Hello guys, welcome back to your video. Today we are reacting to Film Theory. Did Sonic waste our time? Sonic movie 2020. Wait, that was 2019 that it came out. Not. Alright, I'm confused. That was November 2019, but it was 2020 really. So in three, I don't know what to expect. So in 3, 2, 1, let's react.
Something tells me there may have been some film theory fans working on the set of the new Sonic movie. Remember in the trailer when they showed Sonic running past a radar gun and it returned a value of 760 miles per hour? Well, that trailer clip prompted me to respond with this video, where I looked at the reality of radar guns, coming to the conclusion that no gun would be able to reach a speed that high, and that the radar would instead cap out around 200 miles per hour. And wouldn't you know it, the scene was changed in the final movie, where Sonic's new speed clocks in around 250 to 300 miles an hour. Coincidence? Maybe, but then how do you explain the scene when Robotnik, out of the blue, just encourages Sonic to slow down, telling him that his speed is dangerous for his joints? They proved it, you know, is exactly what he says. Now, who is this they, Eggman? Could it be us? I mean, we did dedicate an entire episode to whether Sonic's body could survive his own extreme speed.
Yeah, and he can't.
Concluding that it's ultimately bad for his joints. I'm just saying, there were more than a few parallels to our past Sonic episodes, and I'm not mad by any means. In fact, I'm kind of flattered. But next time, you could at least invite me to the premiere. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to feed my sadness with this never-ending pasta bowl from Olive Garden.
Hashtag non-spawn. That would be pretty good. That would be a pretty good segue to an Olive Garden sponsorship. But missed the opportunity, Olive Garden. Missed the opportunity. But I don't know. I have never eaten at an Olive Garden, so I know how their pastas taste like. They probably taste really good, but I don't know. I probably would never experience that Olive Garden the next 5 years. Probably won't eat any Olive Garden food in the next 5 years. So you know.
It never ends! Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, where I'm here to remind you, Sonic turned his life around in 1 year. You can too. Today, I'd like to start by congratulating the team working on the Sonic movie. Well done, guys! You managed to do the impossible, like 3 times over by my calculations. In one movie, you managed to 1, create a good video game movie, 2, take the criticism of the internet rage machine and use it to better your film, and 3, make a kids movie with a minimal amount of cringe. I mean, having Sonic floss not just once but twice was starting to push your luck a bit there, but you know what? I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I like to think of it as a callback to the days when Sonic had to maintain his weird little human-like teeth. I mean, why floss when you can floss? But seriously, I had a lot of fun with this movie. It was a perfect balance of original storytelling and fan service. The subtle references to Chaos Emeralds, the Sega Saturn, the theme music from the game, some of Sonic's iconic poses, the fact that his punch is about as effective as being slapped across the face with a flaccid noodle. I mean, you even managed to keep some of the big cameo reveals secret, including what was to me the highlight of the movie, the guest appearance of SANIK. I mean, how'd you pull that one out of your egg sack, Eggman?
But I have never seen the movie, and I really want to, but I'm pretty sure it's not in cinemas anymore. It's not in theaters anymore, so I can't do that. And there's been a lot of spoilers in this video, so you know, with all those spoilers, I'm pretty sure I want to see the movie now because they don't show it. And I'm pretty sure it's outside of theaters now. So I just hope it's on Netflix. But most probably not, because it's so new.
Don't let that comedically oversized head get any bigger there, Sonic team, because today can't be all about praise. I gotta knock you for some things. First off, blatant product placement for Zillow? Come on. We all know that Trulia's where it's at, fam. What? Actually, to be fair, any smart apartment shopper would be wise to use all the major resources available to them, so I'm not really taking sides. That was just for comedic effect. Then there's Longclaw the Owl. Let me get this straight. You made up a new character for this movie? This is a franchise where there's more throwaway characters than Game of Thrones, and you just added to the pile instead of taking an established one? I mean,
There's a real Sonic character that actually exists. That looks pretty bad.
Guess it follows in the great tradition of the fandom's OCs. The only thing missing with Longclaw was a watermark over her head reading, "Do not steal" in all caps. But it's the last eensy-weensy nitpick I have that I want to focus on for today's episode. You know, a small, teeny, tiny little problem I have with the entire premise of the movie. Sonic drops his rings through a magic portal and they end up in San Francisco. So he and his human buddy Tom need to get him back via a road trip. You took the video game character known for running real fast and you put him in a truck for a road trip.
For a road trip? Really? He can run so fast he could probably lift his human buddy to San Francisco in 10 seconds. Because Sonic is pretty fast.
Going like 65 miles an hour. Oh sure, you make the excuse that Sonic can't find San Francisco, and yeah, I get that the entire road trip was a veiled excuse for Sonic to connect with humans in a way that he always longed to but was unable to because of his self-imposed isolation. I get it, but I just don't care.
As I crashed into the cold, dark water of the Pacific, I realized a few things. I have no idea where I'm going. And clearly, I'm not going to be able to do this on my own.
Don't sell yourself too short there, Sonic. I have a pretty good feeling that you would have been just fine left on your own. So today, we're putting that movie's premise to the test. Was Sonic's road trip with Tom a faster way of them getting to San Francisco than Sonic just running there by himself? Knowing what we know about Sonic's speed, as well as his apparent inability to use a basic map, would Sonic blindly running across the country ultimately get him to San Francisco faster than hopping in the old Chevy Silverado and driving there human style? So let's start off with what we know. In the movie, their entire road trip takes roughly 2 days. First night is Sonic's big night out eating chili dogs at the local biker bar, and by the late afternoon of the next day, they're in San Francisco eating clam chowder and fighting off Robotnik. But I want to double check that figure. Seems like it's a bit too short. We know that their journey begins in Green Hills, Montana, a fictional city that apparently isn't all that far off from the world's largest rubber band ball. A clue that you think might help us identify the real world location of Green Hills, but it doesn't. The largest rubber band ball in the world was made in Lauderhill, Florida, and now lives in a museum, just a couple of states away from Montana. I mean, Sonic could be seeing a sign for the world's second largest rubber band ball, a 175,000 band behemoth that lives in Eugene, Oregon, but it's still too early in the road trip for them to be all the way over here when they started somewhere in Montana. So, you know what? Maybe we're better locating Green Hills using another method. According to the welcome sign for Green Hills, the city has a population of 1,981 and an elevation of 3,445 feet. Now, finding a place in western Montana that fits both of those criteria is surprisingly challenging. Because the Rocky Mountains are going right through that part of the country, elevations tend to be higher on average there, 4,500 feet and up. But by cross-referencing Montana elevation maps with Montana population maps, I was able to roughly pick out Powell County, and specifically the city of Deer Lodge, as our prime candidate for the real-world equivalent of Green Hills. With an elevation of 4,567 and a population of just under 3,000, yeah, it isn't exact, but it's pretty darn close. And about as close as you're gonna find in this part of Montana. What also helped me settle on Deer Lodge was this moment in the movie, when Robotnik is tracking Tom and Sonic down. We see red dots marked out on the map, presumably key areas that they visited along the trip. And the starting dot is roughly here, right where Idaho has that first little chunk in the state, so track that over and boom, we're back in Powell County. So citizens of Deer Lodge, all 3,000 of you who are clearly watching this show, no longer will your city just be known as the home for the Montana State Prison. Really? Jeez, that is a bummer of a thing to be known for.
What?
The Montana State Prison.
The Montana State Prison. So yes, it really does look like a castle. Wow. How are the prisoners dealing up in a castle? Alright.
Really? Jeez, that is a bummer of a thing to be known for. Well, all of you watching from your little prison TVs while you're stamping out license plates, take pride knowing that you are now the featured city of a pretty okay video game movie. Anyway, using Google Maps to calculate the length of the road trip from Deer Lodge to San Francisco, we see that there are two possible routes. The northern route going up through Washington and down through Oregon, and another more direct route headed down through Idaho and Nevada. Again, going back to Robotnik's map that I mentioned earlier, it seems like Tom took the northern and longer route. We see red dots in both of those northwest states. Plus, when Robotnik zooms in on the map, he's looking at southern Oregon, which again, isn't anywhere close to the southern route. So knowing this, we see that it's an 18.5-hour road trip from Deer Lodge to San Francisco. Pretty aggressive for a 2-day road trip, but it's certainly not impossible. It's actually a lot faster than I expected. So now the question is, would Sonic have been able to blindly find San Francisco in that same 18.5-hour time? Or was the road trip unbelievably a more efficient way of getting him to his final goal? We know for a fact that Sonic can read. In the opening montage of his life on Earth, we see him reading stacks of Flash comic books. He also knows that his rings wound up in San Francisco because he read it on Tom's skin-tight t-shirt. So it's less of an issue of Sonic not knowing where San Francisco is when he sees it, but more of him just needing help finding the city outright in the first place. Now, I'm gonna assume that he isn't reading road signs to follow directions or mile markers. We're just gonna assume that once he reaches the city, if he manages to reach San Francisco, he'll be able to visually see the Transamerica building where his rings landed because it's just such a recognizable piece of architecture. So now, how do we calculate the odds of him finding San Francisco in the first place? Well, I propose that we do it by working under the assumption that he's just gonna run every street in America until he finds it. Just a bunch of trial and error. Brute force his way around the country until he finally sees a sign that says, "Welcome to San Francisco," or even better, just winds up at the foot of the tower. Which of course, as any Sonic episode does, leads us to the inevitable question of Sonic's speed. Now, last time I covered the Sonic movie, we calculated that Sonic was running near the speed of light. It's the only way he'd be able to emit an electromagnetic discharge capable of shutting off power grids and interrupting satellite flight. But let's not go to that extreme of a speed just yet. Let's give the movie the best chance it has at winning this little road race. Right at the start of their adventure, shortly after Tom and Sonic escape Green Hills, Tom kicks Sonic out of the truck, telling him to find San Francisco on his own, prompting the scene that I played earlier. Sonic runs west, just like Tom tells him, and he crashes into the Pacific Ocean and then runs back with a fish on his head. Now, timing this scene out, yes, I actually had a stopwatch in the theater, so not only was I the weird single guy in a room full of families and small children, but I was also the weird single guy in a room full of families and small children carrying a stopwatch and using it during the movie. But from the moment he takes off to the moment he returns to the truck, it takes exactly 3.9 seconds. I'm just gonna round this to 4 just to make the calculations a bit more simple. Speaking of 4 seconds, I have a challenge where you gotta go fast. Can you, in the time that it took Sonic to run from Green Hills to the Pacific Ocean and back, ring the subscription bell and leave a comment down below? Bet you can't. Let's test it out, shall we? 4, 3, 2, 1. Did you do it? Well, whether you did or didn't,
No, I didn't. I mean, I'm already subscribed and hit the notification bell, so you want me to hit that again? Alright. No. Nope. I'm not gonna do that.
just know that your subscription is appreciated. I'm trying to get to 10 million subscribers sometime this year on this channel, and I need all the help I can get, so you subscribing means a lot. Thank you so much. Now on with the episode. If he took Tom's advice literally, Sonic ran straight west to the Pacific and then back in that amount of time. Drawing a straight line from Deer Lodge out to the Pacific, you see that at this point, they're about 550 miles or 885 kilometers away from the ocean. That means in 4 seconds, Sonic traveled 1,100 miles or 1,770 kilometers. That's 275 miles or 442 kilometers a second, or our final number of 990,000 miles an hour. 1.6 million kilometers an hour. Now, Tom gives Sonic the instructions of head west, so let's do that. Let's assume that Sonic explores every roadway west of where he currently is in Green Hills, Montana. That's mostly going to be the states of Idaho, Washington, Oregon, California, a bit more of Montana, and Nevada. So I added up all of the roadways, both paved and unpaved, for all of those states, and found that we're dealing with about 1,083,000 miles worth of roadway, 1.7 million kilometers. Sonic would be able to cover all of that in a little over an hour. But okay, maybe Sonic doesn't know what direction west is. Maybe he goes the wrong way. Well, across all 50 states, the US has 4,092,729 49 miles of roadway, 6.58 million kilometers. It is far and away the best, longest, most robust road system in the world, and Sonic would be able to cover it all in 4 hours, giving him more than enough time to get lost, double back, and stop for every giant rubber band ball that he sees along the way, while still making it to the Transamerica building 3 times over before Tom's truck would. And remember, that's still me assuming the worst case scenario. That's Sonic not traveling at light speed, not reading road signs. That's Sonic traveling all the roads in America before finally stumbling across San Francisco as his very last destination, cause, you know, one of the nation's largest cities might be hard to miss. But you know what? Call me Angelica Schuyler, cause I am still not satisfied. What if Sonic got really lost and took a roadway that went south of the border, or up to Canada, or maybe he just wanted to enjoy a nice huevos rancheros near the Nazca line? So I tallied up all the roadways in...
Oh God, how much time did that take? Just gotta take a lot of time.
all the countries and territories of both North and South America, because I didn't feel like separating out the island nations, to be honest. So I went the whole 9 yards, and I got myself 7,029,306 miles of roadway, 11.3 million kilometers, 7 hours and 6 minutes worth of Sonic runtime to run every street, every roadway, both paved and unpaved, in every piece of land in all of North and South America, and still he is taking up less than half the time it would require for Tom to drive him that 18.5-hour road trip. And so yeah, I went there because I'd already come this far. Why not go the final step? I went to the CIA's World Fact Book and added up all 215 entries they had for the roadways around the world, paying attention to every last number, even Tuvalu's little reported 8 kilometers of paved roadway, because that's how type A I am. An absolutely tedious process of data crunching that was rendered entirely useless when I got to the final 4 entries of that CIA list and saw that world was a separate entry unto itself.
Oh no.
Why wouldn't you put that at the top of the list, CIA? Or at the very least, the very bottom? I know that you watch this show because you're nervous about the things that are in my search history from researching this series, so come on, guys. Do some basic data entry best practices for me, alright? Anyway, I came up with a little more than half of what they reported as the world total. Not 100% sure how it happened, to be honest. I think they counted the European Union twice in their calculations because their numbers just don't make sense relative to what they're reporting. Central Intelligence Agency, my foot, more like crappy information archive. And that, my friends, is why it pays to be thorough and double-check government organizations with your own Excel spreadsheet. Regardless, my final...
It says 1080p 60, but it doesn't look like it. And now it's gonna load for like 20 minutes. Oh no.
Final total for all the roadways in the world was 25,010,432 miles, 40.25 million kilometers. A distance that would take Sonic 1 day and 1 hour to run. Meaning that finally we've reached a number that Tom's road trip is able to beat. Or is it? Remember, we said that 18.5 hours was Tom's trip if he drove non-stop. But we know that they took breaks. They beat up biker thugs. They farted around in their hotel room, figuratively and literally. In total, that road trip was at least a day and a half, probably 36 to 40 hours total before everything is said and done. Meaning that Sonic running every roadway in the world would still end up taking a shorter time than sitting shotgun next to Tom down the old Route 90 West. And again, remember, this is me taking the conservative estimate on every step along the way here. We're not even factoring in his ability to travel near the speed of light. And don't you get started on me about how they needed Tom to smuggle him to the top of the building when he got there. At the start of the road trip, they didn't know that little bit of information. And as Sonic and Eggman chase each other through the city in the opening sequence of the movie, we see Sonic's ability to literally run up the exterior walls of buildings. Sure, it's an external view very wide out from the action, but still, he is scaling the building like a champ. It's almost as if the whole thing was manufactured by Sonic to make Tom feel important in the first place. That manipulative little hedgehog. Seems like speed isn't his only super ability. So there you have it, my little chaotics. You should watch the Sonic movie for a lot of reasons. It's fun, it's funny, it does the characters justice. Just don't roll in expecting a premise that makes a whole lot of sense. Or an accurate location of the world's largest rubber band ball. Or an appearance from Charmy the Bee. Come on, guys! You make Long Claw, but you neglect Charmy the Bee? Time to fire up the internet rage machine one more time for the sequel. But first, I have to shop for an apartment.
Isn't that like the first laptop? I'm pretty sure. That's the first chunkiest
Or an accurate location of the world's largest rubber band ball. Or an appearance from Charmy the Bee. Come on, guys! You make Long Claw, but you neglect Charmy the Bee? Time to fire up the internet rage machine one more time.
I'm pretty sure that's the world's first laptop. Which is crazy because that doesn't look good at all. But it was $4,000 in 1980, I'm pretty sure.
Time for the sequel. But first, I have to shop for an apartment.
Not really a laptop.
Zillow.com.
You don't put it on your lap.
But hey, that's
You versus the Sonic cheat tells you not to worry about. Hashtag Sonic movie.
just a theory. A film theory. And cuts.
See you guys. Thanks for watching. Of course, peace. I'll be back. Peace.